The ISS Dauntless cruised silently through the darkness of uncharted space, its sleek hull reflecting distant starlight. Captain Han stood on the bridge, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of instrument panels as he surveyed. His crew. This was humanity's greatest achievement, traveling beyond our solar system to seek out other intelligent life. "Captain, we're picking up unusual energy readings," announced Officer Yoon, her fingers dancing across her console. "They don't match any known signature in our database." Han nodded, keeping his expression calm though his heart raced. After months of deep space exploration, they might have found what Earth had been searching for since humans first looked up. At the stars. "Put it on screen," he ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a massive vessel unlike anything they'd ever seen. Its surface seemed to shimmer with a metallic rainbow effect, organic curves blending with geometric precision in a way human engineering had never achieved. "It's beautiful," whispered Science Officer Bayek, already taking readings with barely contained excitement. The strange ship hung in space before them, neither approaching nor retreating, as if studying the human vessel with equal curiosity. "Captain." Han straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. "Open a channel, standard greeting protocol." Communications Officer Ju nodded, her fingers trembling slightly as she established first contact between humanity and an alien civilization. "Channel open, sir. This is Captain Han of the Earth research vessel Dauntless. We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge." His voice remained steady despite the historic importance of this moment. For several tense seconds there was nothing but silence. Then the view screen changed, revealing the aliens. The crew gasped collectively. The beings, later identified as Araxians, stood nearly 8 feet tall with crystalline, semi-transparent skin that reflected light in hypnotic patterns. Their 4 eyes, positioned in a diamond pattern, blinked independently as they studied. "The humans," the lead Araxian spoke. Its voice translated through the ship's computers into something the humans could understand. "We are the Araxian Collective. Your presence in this sector was unexpected." The conversation started diplomatically. "Enough." The Araxians explained they were an ancient species who had colonized hundreds of worlds across their section of the galaxy. They asked numerous questions about Earth, human biology, and the capabilities of the Dauntless. Captain Han answered. Honestly, believing transparency would foster trust. What the humans didn't realize was that with each answer, the Araxians grew more disturbed. Deep scans of the human vessel revealed biological readings unlike anything in the collective's extensive database of conquered species. 3 days into the diplomatic exchange, the situation deteriorated rapidly when Navigator Park accidentally mentioned Earth's colonization plans for a nearby star system. "That sector falls under Araxian protection," the alien commander stated coldly. "Your species will remain confined to your home system." Captain Han tried to explain that humans had already established outposts beyond Sul. "We mean no territorial offense. Perhaps we can discuss shared—" The alien commander cut the transmission. Seconds later, the Araxian vessel's weapon ports opened. "Shields up!" Han shouted, but it was too late. The Araxian ship fired a brilliant purple beam that engulfed the Dauntless. On the bridge, the humans braced for destruction, but instead felt only a strange tingling sensation that swept through their bodies like an electric current. "Status report," Han demanded, confused by the lack of damage. Officer Kang checked his security console. "Sir, they hit us with some kind of energy weapon, but our shields are still at 98% minimal effect." The Araxians fired again and again. Each time the humans felt that same uncomfortable tingling, sometimes accompanied by momentary dizziness or nausea, but nothing more serious. On the view screen, they could see the Araxian commander gesturing frantically to its subordinates, clearly baffled by the humans' resilience. Science Officer Bayek studied her readings with growing excitement. "Captain, I think their weapons are designed to disrupt neural pathways. They probably use them to quickly subdue other species, but our nervous systems must be different enough that we're naturally resistant." Captain Han allowed himself a small smile. "Seems we're tougher than they expected." When the Araxians paused, their ineffective attack, Han seized the opportunity. Tactical, target their propulsion systems, minimal force. We want to disable, not destroy. The Dauntless fired with precision, its conventional weapons striking the alien vessel and causing visible damage. The bridge crew watched in amazement as the massive Araxian ship began to retreat, but not before launching several smaller scout ships. "One of them is on a collision course," shouted Officer Kang. "Tractor beam," Han ordered instantly. The small Araxian craft was caught in the Dauntless's tractor beam just before impact. As it was pulled into the human ship's cargo bay, the crew could see through its transparent hull that the pilot had abandoned ship, leaving behind valuable alien technology. Captain Han opened a ship-wide channel. "All personnel, battle stations. We've just survived first contact gone wrong, but something tells me this isn't over." He turned to his communications officer. "Ju, prepare an emergency transmission to Earth. They need to know what we're dealing with, and that apparently we're immune to their weapons." As the Dauntless changed course to evade any pursuing Araxian vessels, the crew couldn't help but feel a mixture of pride and concern. They had survived an alien attack through sheer biological luck, but they had also made a powerful enemy, one that would certainly return better prepared. Humanity's first step into the galactic community had been a baptism by fire, and the flames were just beginning to rise. Aliens shocked when humans are immune to their weapons. HFY Sci-Fi Story, the Grand Chamber of the Araxian High Council, buzzed with agitation. 12 tall crystalline beings sat around a circular table, their skin flickering with distressed patterns of red and orange as they watched the battle footage for the 20th time. The humans should have collapsed instantly when hit by their neural disruptors. Instead, they had merely winced and continued fighting. "Impossible," muttered High Commander Traz, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he replayed the moment the Dauntless was engulfed by the weapon beam. "Our disruptors have subdued 47 different species. How did these humans resist?" The chief scientist, Lox, manipulated the holographic display with long, slender fingers. "The readings are clear. Their neural pathways experienced disruption, but their systems adapted almost immediately." A younger council member leaned forward. "Could our weapons have malfunctioned?" "We fired 17 times, Traz snapped. "All weapons performed correctly. It's the humans who are wrong." The council chamber fell silent at this declaration. In the 3,000 years of Araxian expansion, they had never encountered a species naturally immune to their primary weapons. The implications were terrifying. "They must be contained," whispered an elder member, her crystalline form darkening with fear. "If they spread throughout the galaxy," Traz nodded grimly. "I've already ordered our fleet to establish a quarantine perimeter around their solar system. Nothing gets in or out." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the captured Araxian scout ship had arrived on Earth, creating a sensation at the Global Space Defense Headquarters in Seoul. Dozens of scientists crowded around the alien craft, but none were as excited as Dr. Jin. "Careful, careful," he shouted, as technicians unloaded components from the ship. "That device could be worth more than all our technology combined." The room was a flurry of activity, engineers scanning components, linguists attempting to decode alien symbols, and military personnel standing guard with nervous expressions. At the center of it all was the neural disruptor weapon that had failed to harm the Dauntless crew. Dr. Jin had been working non-stop for 3 days, his rumpled lab coat and dark-circled eyes testifying to his dedication. He barely looked up when the heavy doors slid open and Admiral Shin entered, accompanied by 2 government officials. "Doctor, please tell me you have something," the Admiral said, her voice tense. Jin grinned and gestured to a large screen displaying human and alien neural patterns side by side. "It's beautiful, really, simply beautiful." "What is?" one official asked impatiently. "Why we survived," Jin said, tapping the screen. "These Araxians built weapons that target specific neural pathways that apparently every sentient species they've encountered shares, except us." He pulled up a 3D model of the human nervous system, highlighting certain areas. "Our nervous system evolved on Earth, a radiation-heavy planet compared to most habitable worlds. Our ancestors survived ice ages, meteor impacts, massive climate shifts. Our planet tried to kill us in 100 different ways. Admiral Shin frowned. And that makes us immune to alien weapons. Not immune, resistant, Jin corrected. Their weapons still affect us, causing pain, discomfort, sometimes even temporary paralysis. But our nervous systems recover almost instantly. It's like, imagine if someone tried to knock down a normal building with a wrecking ball, then tried the same technique on a building made of flexible materials designed to withstand earthquakes. He pointed to another screen showing medical readouts from the dauntless crew. Exposure to their weapons causes our neurons to temporarily rewire themselves, an adaptation no other species seems capable of. The second official, a woman with steel-grey hair, stepped forward. How can we use this advantage? Before Jin could answer, a young researcher burst into the room, tablet in hand. Doctor, you need to see this now. The tablet showed real-time satellite imagery of dozens, no hundreds, of Araxian vessels taking positions at the edge of the solar system. They're creating a blockade, Admiral Shin whispered. They're trapping us in our own solar system. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly from scientific curiosity to grim determination. There's more, the researcher said nervously. We've detected signals. They're communicating with someone in the Kuiper Belt. Jin's eyes widened. They're not alone out there. On the other side of the planet, in a secret military facility nestled in the mountains, another team of scientists worked with different pieces of the alien puzzle. Here, Dr. Song led the Weapons Research Division, studying how the Araxian technology might be adapted for human use. The power source is unlike anything we've developed, she explained to her team, carefully dissecting. A small cylindrical object from the scout ship. It generates clean energy at levels we can barely measure. Her assistant, a young physicist named Tae, looked up from his calculations. If we could replicate this, we could power entire cities indefinitely, or build weapons that could penetrate. Their defenses, added a military observer darkly. Dr. Song shot him a disapproving look. Let's focus on understanding before we rush to applications. As she carefully extracted a crystalline component from the device, her computer chimed with an incoming secure transmission. The large screen on the wall lit up with Dr. Jin's face. Song, you won't believe what we've discovered about their communication system. For the next hour, the two research teams shared findings, building a clearer picture of their alien visitors. The Araxians weren't just technologically advanced, they were ancient, spread across hundreds of star systems, and had a rigid hierarchical society built on the subjugation of lesser species. And now they saw humans as a threat to that order. Late that night, as Dr. Jin finally allowed himself a brief rest, he stood at the window of his lab, looking up at the stars now hidden behind clouds. Somewhere up there, an alien civilization was preparing its next move against Earth, frightened by the very thing that made humans human, their remarkable adaptability. They think we're monsters, he murmured to himself, because they're perfect. Weapon couldn't stop us. He returned to his desk where a sample of his own blood was being analyzed, searching for the precise mechanism that granted human resistance. If they could understand it fully, perhaps they could enhance it, or even share it with other species who might become allies against the Araxian collective. The fate of humanity now depended on a biological quirk, a lucky roll of the evolutionary. Dice that had turned humans, in the eyes of the galaxy's dominant power, from unremarkable newcomers into unstoppable threats. Aliens shocked when humans are immune to their weapons. HFY Sci-Fi Story. The Europa outpost was humanity's furthest permanent settlement from Earth, a sprawling research station built into the icy moon's surface. For the 37 scientists and security personnel stationed there, the distant blockade of Araxian ships had been just lights in the sky until today. Officer J was on perimeter duty when the first Araxian scout ships descended through Europa's thin atmosphere. Their crystalline hulls gleamed against the backdrop of Jupiter's swirling clouds. Beautiful, he thought, before slamming the emergency alarm. Unknown vessels approaching. This is not a drill. Inside the main habitat dome, Director Gill looked up from her console as red warning lights bathed the room. Everyone to your stations. Defensive Protocol Alpha. The outpost had been retrofitted with makeshift shields based on reverse-engineered Araxian technology, but everyone knew they were outmatched. These weren't diplomatic vessels. They were hunters coming to test their weapons against isolated humans. The first blast hit before the shields were fully powered. A wave of sickly green energy washed over the outpost, and Director Gill felt her muscles seize momentarily. She fought through the discomfort, noticing that while everyone grimaced in pain, no one collapsed. The Araxian neural disruptors still couldn't fully incapacitate humans. "They've upgraded their weapons," she gasped into her communicator. "Effects are stronger but still not lethal. Status check." Around the outpost, her team reported in, all conscious, all fighting through the lingering numbness. Outside, Officer J had taken cover behind an ice formation, his training kicking in despite the neural disruption. He readied one of the new hybrid weapons, human engineering combined with Araxian technology, and took aim at the lead scout ship. "Let's see how you like a taste of your own medicine," he muttered, pulling the trigger. The weapon fired a concentrated beam of energy that punched through the Araxian ship's hull. Not a killing blow, but enough to send it spiraling away, leaking a strange luminescent fluid into Europa's thin atmosphere. Back on Earth, Admiral Song watched the live feed from Europa, with grim satisfaction in the underground command center. The wall of screens showed similar scenes playing out across the solar system as Araxian forces tested human outposts on Mars, Titan, and the asteroid belt. "They're probing our defenses," observed her second-in-command, "testing the effectiveness of their modified weapons." Admiral Song nodded, her weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of the tactical displays, "and learning that we're adapting just as quickly as they are." For 3 months since first contact, Earth had been preparing. Old national rivalries had been set aside in the face of an existential threat. Every scientific mind on the planet was focused on understanding and countering Araxian technology. "The Europa team is holding their own," reported a young officer. "Mars outpost reports minimal casualties, mostly fatigue and temporary paralysis. The new shielding is working." Admiral Song allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had always excelled at taking others' technology and improving upon it. Already their scientists had learned to modify conventional metals using principles observed in Araxian technology, creating more effective shielding and weapons than should have been possible in such a short time. But the Admiral knew they were still outmatched. The Araxian collective had conquered hundreds of worlds. Earth was just one planet isolated and blockaded. "New transmission from Deep Space Intelligence," another officer called out. "We've intercepted Araxian communications. They're calling for someone called High Engineer Mox." The name sent a chill through the command center. Intelligence had identified Mox as the Araxians' most brilliant weapons designer, responsible for the subjugation of multiple species. "They're bringing in their best," Admiral Song said quietly. "They won't stop until they find a way to neutralize us." Across the galaxy on the Araxian throne world, High Engineer Mox stood before the Central Command, his crystalline form glowing with confidence, despite the gravity of the situation. "The humans continue to resist our standard weapons," he acknowledged. "But every species has a weakness. We simply haven't found theirs yet." The Araxian Supreme, a towering figure whose crystal body had darkened with age to a deep purple, leaned forward on his floating throne. "These humans are spreading through their system like a disease. If they break our blockade and reach other worlds—" "They won't," Mox assured him. "I've studied their biology extensively. Their resistance comes from their chaotic nervous system, an evolutionary adaptation from their volatile home planet. But chaos can be predicted, given enough data." He gestured, and a holographic display appeared showing a complex molecular structure. "I'm developing a new class of weapon targeting the unique properties of human biology, not their nervous system, but their very cellular structure." On Earth, in the Advanced Weapons Research Facility, Dr. Kang wiped sweat from his brow as he made final adjustments to the prototype. The captured Araxian scout ship had yielded secrets that were revolutionizing human technology. "Power output stable," reported his assistant. "Crystal matrix aligned." Dr. Kang nodded and initiated the test sequence. The prototype, A fusion of human and Araxian technology hummed to life, projecting a shield bubble around the test chamber. "Hit it with everything," he ordered. The automated systems fired conventional weapons, then energy weapons reverse-engineered. From Araxian tech, the shield dimmed but held. "It works," his assistant exclaimed. Dr. Kang allowed himself a tired smile. "Get Admiral Song. Tell her Operation Counterpoint is ready for deployment." Weeks later, a fleet of Earth vessels, hastily retrofitted with the new hybrid technology, broke through the Araxian blockade at Jupiter's orbit. They were smaller than the alien ships, but more maneuverable, and their crews fought with the desperation of people defending their home. Captain Ryu of the EDS Defiance led the charge, her ship darting between two massive Araxian cruisers. Fire, at will. The human weapon struck with surprising effectiveness, causing visible damage to the crystalline alien vessels. For the first time, the Araxians were on the defensive. "We've opened a corridor," Ryu reported back to Earth Command. "Sending. Coordinates now." Admiral Song's voice came through clearly despite the distance. "Proceed with Phase 2. Find their supply lines and communication hubs." As the battle raged across the outer solar system, intelligence officers on Earth made a startling discovery. Hidden among the Araxian communications were messages in non-Araxian languages, signals from other species under their control. "They're not just fighting us," realized Intelligence Officer Park. "They're suppressing rebellions across their territory. Our resistance is inspiring others." The news spread like wildfire through Earth's forces. They weren't just fighting for humanity now. They had become a symbol of hope for other subjugated species throughout the galaxy. But even as humanity celebrated its first victories, High Engineer Mox completed his work in a secret facility deep within Araxian space. The new weapon, designed specifically to target human biology, was ready for deployment. "The humans believe they are special," he told his team as they prepared the prototype. "They think their natural resistance makes them invincible. But every species can be broken. Every species can be conquered." He activated the weapon, watching as it generated a sickly yellow energy field. "And when we bring this to Earth, humanity will learn that even their remarkable adaptation cannot save them from the collective." Back on Earth, as Admiral Song prepared the next phase of humanity's defense, she had no way of knowing that the true test of human resilience was yet to come. The Araxians' most dangerous weapon was on its way, and not even humanity's unusual biology might save them this time. Aliens shocked when humans are immune to their weapons. HFY Sci-Fi Story. The damaged human scout ship drifted silently through the asteroid field at the edge of Araxian territory. Inside, Lieutenant Jun held his breath as 3 Araxian patrol vessels passed nearby, their sensors sweeping the area. His mission was simple but dangerous. Gather intelligence on Araxian fleet movements and return to Earth. So far, he'd collected more than expected. When the patrol finally moved on, Jun relaxed slightly and returned to the strange transmission he'd intercepted. The language wasn't Araxian. It was something else entirely, being broadcast on a frequency the Araxians rarely monitored. "Computer, continue translation attempts," he whispered. The ship's AI worked silently for several minutes before responding. "Translation confidence at 64%. Message appears to be a distress call or request for contact." Jun leaned forward, excitement building. "Play it." A soft, melodic voice filled the cabin. "To the humans who resist the collective. We have watched your battles. You are not alone in your struggle. We are the Tylan held under Araxian control for 9 generations. If you can hear us, we have information that may save your world." Jun's hands trembled as he opened a secure channel back to Earth. This changed everything. On Earth, the War Council gathered in the underground chamber beneath the old Seoul Olympic Stadium. Admiral Song studied the holographic star map, showing the latest Araxian fleet movements. The blockade around Earth's solar system remained, but it had thinned as ships were diverted to deal with growing problems throughout Araxian territory. "The Talon's information checks out," reported Intelligence Officer Kwon. "Araxian control systems are stretched thin. There are at least 7 other species actively resisting now." Admiral Song nodded thoughtfully. all inspired by our continued resistance. There's more, Quan continued. The Talons have provided coordinates for High Engineer Mox's weapons development facility. According to their intelligence, he's created a weapon specifically designed to target human biology, something that could overcome our natural resistance. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. For months, humanity had survived because their neural structure resisted Araxian weapons. If the aliens found a way around that advantage, can we trust these Talons? Asked General Dal, his voice gruff with suspicion. This could be an Araxian trap. A new voice answered from the doorway. It is not a trap. All heads turned to see. A slender, graceful being entered the chamber. Standing just over 5 feet tall, the alien had pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Large, expressive eyes dominated a delicate face, and 6-fingered hands gestured elegantly. As it spoke, "I am Elder Fen of the Talon people," the alien announced. "I have risked much to come here." Admiral Song stepped forward. "How did you get through the blockade?" Fen's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. "The Araxians believe they know all the paths between stars. They do not. My people were explorers before we were slaves." Over the next hours, Elder Fen revealed the full extent of what humanity was facing. The Talons were physically fragile but technologically brilliant, forced to develop weapons for their Araxian masters. They had secretly monitored Mox's project and discovered the horrifying truth. "The new weapon targets your cellular regeneration," Fen explained, projecting detailed schematics. "Your unusual resistance comes from your cell's ability to rapidly recover from neural disruption. Mox has created a cascading field that prevents this regeneration, effectively neutralizing your natural advantage." Dr. Jin studied the schematics with growing concern. This would be devastating. Instead of recovering in seconds, exposure would leave humans incapacitated for hours, maybe days. "Precisely," Fen confirmed. "And Mox has built enough emitters to blanket your entire planet." Admiral Song's expression hardened. "Then we have no choice. We must destroy this weapon before it can be deployed." "That is why I came," Fen said. "My people wish to join your resistance, as do others who have suffered under Araxian rule. For too long, the collective has maintained power by ensuring no species could effectively fight their neural weapons. You humans have given the galaxy hope." 2 days later, in the briefing room of Earth's newest warship, the EDS Courage, Admiral Song addressed the assembled officers. The ship hummed with energy as final preparations were made for what might be humanity's most important mission. "This operation is unlike anything we've attempted," she began. "We will be traveling beyond our solar system, deep into Araxian territory, to destroy Mox's facility. We won't be alone." She gestured to the view screen, which showed 8 vessels of unfamiliar design approaching Earth. "These are ships from the Talon resistance, along with representatives from the Nor and Vectal species, former enemies of each other, now united against Araxian oppression." Captain Hoon, commanding officer of the Courage, studied the alien vessels with professional interest. "Their technology looks different. The Talons specialize in stealth systems," explained Elder Fen, who stood beside Admiral Song. "The Nor have developed energy weapons that can penetrate Araxian shields. The Vectal bring knowledge of Araxian defense networks. Together with human resilience, we have a chance." As the joint fleet prepared to depart, Lieutenant Jun found himself assigned as liaison to the Talon ship. He followed a small group of human officers aboard the alien vessel, marveling at the organic-looking technology that seemed to pulse with life. "Your ship, it feels alive," he commented to his Talon guide. "In a way it is," she replied. "We believe technology should harmonize with biological systems, not dominate them. This philosophy is why the Araxians have always considered us dangerous, despite our physical weakness." June nodded thoughtfully. "That's what this alliance is really about, isn't it? Different approaches, different strengths coming together." 3 days later, the Allied fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Cerulia system, home to Mox's secret facility. The massive research station orbited a desolate moon, surrounded by Araxian defense platforms. On the bridge of the Courage, Captain Hoon received the final intelligence update from Elder Fenn's operatives inside the facility. The weapon is nearly complete. They plan to begin moving it within 12 hours. Then we have no time to waste. Hoon replied, turning to his tactical officer. Signal the fleet. Commence Operation Thunderstrike. The battle erupted with startling ferocity. The human ships charged directly at the Araxian defensive line, drawing their fire while Talon vessels slipped past, cloaked by their advanced stealth technology. Nor attack ships targeted the defense platforms with precise energy blasts that cut through their crystalline structures. Aboard the Courage, Captain Hoon held tight to his command chair as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. Keep their attention on us. The strike team needs more time. Meanwhile, deeper in the system, a small combined force of human and alien commandos had boarded a supply ship bound for Mox's facility. Lieutenant Jun checked his weapon, a hybrid design incorporating Talon energy modulators with human engineering, and nodded to his alien counterparts. Remember, he told the strike team, our primary objective is the prototype weapon and its research data. Secondary objective is Mox himself. The Talon commando beside him, a specialist named Fowl, tilted her head. You humans place great importance on individual accountability. Jun shrugged. Mox chose to create a weapon to exterminate us. Choices have consequences. As their stolen supply ship docked with the research facility, alarms were already blaring. The diversionary attack had pulled many defenders away, but the station was far from unprotected. They know we're coming, muttered Jun as the airlock cycled open. So much for surprise. The first Araxian guards they encountered fired neural disruptors, ineffective against the humans and easily blocked by the protective gear the alien allies wore, developed based on human resistance patterns. The guards fell quickly to return fire. Fighting their way through the station, the strike team finally reached the central laboratory. There, surrounded by humming equipment and floating holographic displays, stood High Engineer Mox. His crystalline form glowed with angry red pulses as he turned to face the intruders. Humans, he said, his translator making the word sound like a curse. You are too late. The weapon is already being replicated. Soon your natural immunity will mean nothing. Behind him loomed the prototype, a massive device that pulsed with sickly yellow energy. Jun raised his weapon, but Mox was faster, activating a shield that separated him from the strike team. Your resistance was interesting, Mox continued, but ultimately futile. The collective has ruled this galaxy for millennia. Your brief defiance is already ending. It was then that June noticed Fowl slipping around the edge of the room, using the Talon's natural stealth abilities to avoid detection. She reached a control panel and began working silently, while Mox continued his speech. You should know, Jun replied, deliberately keeping Mox's attention, that we didn't come here just to destroy your weapon. We came to send a message to every species under Araxian control. Resistance is possible. Mox's crystalline form flickered with dismissive patterns. A message no one will hear when your species is... The shield around him suddenly collapsed as Fowl completed her sabotage. Before Mox could react, Jun fired, his hybrid weapon striking the Araxian with a concentrated burst that shattered one arm into crystalline fragments. As alarms blared and the facility began to shake from explosives the team had planted during their approach, June faced a choice. Mox lay injured but alive before him, the prototype weapon still intact behind him. There wasn't time for both. Plant the charges on the prototype, he ordered the team. We're taking Mox with us. The Araxian scientists' capture would provide invaluable intelligence and send an even stronger message than his death would have. As the strike team retreated toward their extraction point, carrying the struggling Mox with them, Jun allowed himself to think beyond survival for the first time since the conflict began. The alliance that had formed today wasn't just about stopping one weapon. It was the beginning of a fundamental shift in the galaxy's power structure, one that promised freedom for countless beings who had lived too long under Araxian control. Aliens shocked when humans are immune to their weapons. HFY Sci-Fi Story, the flagship of the Araxian Supreme Command, the Crystal Dominion, hung in Earth's orbit like a massive jewel, its fractured hull sparkling in the sunlight. Inside its shattered command chamber, Supreme Commander Vex stared at the tactical display with disbelief. Their blockade was crumbling. Human ships, alongside vessels of former Araxian subject species, punched through their defensive lines with alarming efficiency. "How is this possible?" Vex demanded, his crystalline form pulsing with angry red light. "We are the collective. We have ruled the stars for 3,000 years. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Lox, gestured toward the display. "The humans have united 7 formerly subjugated species against us. The Talons provided stealth technology. The Vectal brought our defense codes. The Nor contributed energy weapons that can penetrate our shields. But we have numbers. We have experience." Vex slammed his crystalline fist against the command console, sending cracks through its surface. "What we don't have," Lox said quietly, "is High Engineer Mox or his weapon. The human strike team destroyed the prototype and captured him. Without the anti-regeneration field, we cannot overcome their natural resistance." On the main view screen, a human vessel appeared, sleek and powerful. The UES Invincible, flagship of Earth's defense fleet. Its commander, Captain Day, had become infamous among the Araxian forces, the human who refused to die when they first fired upon his research vessel months ago. "They're hailing us," reported the communications officer. Vex straightened his form, forcing the color patterns on his skin to stabilize. He would not show weakness to these creatures. "Open the channel." Captain Day's face filled the screen, his expression calm but resolute. Behind him stood representatives of several formerly subjugated species, a blue-skinned Talon, a four-armed Nor, and others. The sight of these races standing freely alongside humans sent a wave of dread through Vex's crystalline form. "Supreme Commander," Day said formally, "your fleet is surrounded. Your supply lines are cut. Your subject worlds are in open rebellion. I'm offering you the opportunity to surrender." Vex's form flickered with indignation. "The Araxian collective does not surrender to lesser beings," Day sighed. "I thought you might say that. Before you make your final decision, there's someone who wants to speak with you." The view shifted and suddenly High Engineer Mox appeared on screen. The brilliant scientist's form was intact but subdued, the usual vibrant colors of his crystalline body dimmed to a muted blue. "Supreme Commander," Mox said, his voice lacking its usual arrogance, "I have studied these humans extensively. Their immunity to our weapons is just the beginning of what makes them dangerous." "You are a prisoner speaking under duress," Vex dismissed. "I am speaking the truth," Mox insisted. "They could have destroyed me after I tried to create a weapon, to exterminate their species. Instead, they offered me something the collective never has, the chance to use my knowledge to build rather than subjugate." Mox's form brightened slightly. "They have shown me their medical technology, how they use it to heal rather than control. Their scientists work alongside me as equals, not as master and servant. They have offered the same to all Araxians willing to live in peace." Vex's color patterns swirled with confusion. "This is some human trick." "It is not," said Mox firmly. "I have analyzed their social structures, their history. Yes, they have fought countless wars amongst themselves, but they have also created art, music, philosophy. They value individual freedom in a way the collective never has. And most importantly, they adapt. Their immune response to our neural disruptors is just one example of the adaptability that has allowed them to survive on their hostile world." The screen split to show the battle raging outside. 3 more Araxian cruisers had been disabled, their crews evacuating in escape pods that human vessels were carefully avoiding. "Look," Mox continued, "their ships are targeting our weapons and engines, not our life support systems. Even now, they are choosing to minimize casualties. Is that the behavior of monsters?" Sub-Commander Lox stepped closer to Vex, speaking quietly. "The bridge crew of the Immutable has reported that humans rescued their survivors after disabling their vessel. They are treating our wounded alongside their own." Captain Day's face returned to the screen. "Your soldiers are being cared for in our medical facilities. Once they're recovered, they'll be free to return to Araxian space, if that's what they choose." "Choose?" Vex couldn't hide his confusion. "They are Araxian. They serve the collective." "Not anymore," Day said firmly. Every sentient being deserves the right to determine their own path. That's the foundation of the alliance we're building, one based on cooperation, not subjugation. As Vex hesitated, the tactical display updated. The human fleet had been joined by vessels from 3 more formerly subject worlds. Smaller Araxian ships were beginning to power down their weapons in surrender. "The collective is dying," Lox whispered. "Even if we fought to the last crystal, our empire is already fracturing." Vex knew he was right. Without their neural disruptors, without the fear they inspired, the Araxian collective had no way to maintain control over the hundreds of worlds they'd subjugated. The humans had done more than resist their weapons. They had broken the foundation of Araxian power. "What are your terms?" Vex finally asked. Captain Day's expression remained neutral, but there was a hint of relief in his eyes. "Immediate cessation of hostilities. The Araxian homeworld and original colony systems remain yours to govern, but all subject worlds will be free to join our alliance or remain independent. Your research into weapons targeting specific species will end. In exchange, we offer technological and cultural exchange, fair trade agreements, and a place at the table in shaping the new galactic community." It was more generous than Vex had expected. The humans could have demanded unconditional surrender, could have reduced the Araxian homeworld to rubble in revenge for the attempted blockade of Earth. Why? Vex couldn't help asking. Why offer terms when you could destroy us? For the first time, Captain Day smiled. Because that's not who we are. Humanity has fought enough wars among ourselves to know that true peace doesn't come from annihilation, but from building something better together. 3 days later, representatives from 23 species gathered aboard the UES Harmony, a new vessel designed specifically for diplomatic missions. The ship's grand conference room represented a blend of architectural styles from multiple worlds, with the central table shaped in a perfect circle to symbolize equality. Captain Day, now appointed as Earth's primary ambassador, looked around. At the assembled delegates, Talons with their luminescent blue skin, four-armed Nor, crystalline Araxians, and many others he was still learning to identify. Among them sat Elder Fen of the Talons, who had risked everything to bring critical intelligence to Earth. "We gather today to formalize the Stellar Alliance," Day began. "Each world represented here has suffered under Araxian rule. Each has fought for freedom. But today marks the beginning of something greater than independence. It marks the beginning of true cooperation." The Araxian representative, a younger crystal being named Traz, spoke next. "The collective acknowledges its history of conquest and subjugation. We cannot undo the past, but we commit to a different future. Our technology, once used to control, we now offer in service of healing and growth." Elder Fen rose, her delicate form seeming to glow with inner light. "The Talons welcome this new era. For generations we developed technology under duress, forced to create tools of oppression. Now we offer our gifts freely, to build rather than destroy." One by one, representatives from each world spoke, pledging resources, knowledge, and cooperation. Trade routes were established, cultural exchange programs proposed, and joint scientific ventures launched. As the formal proceedings concluded, Captain Day found himself standing beside Lieutenant Jun, the scout whose interception of the Tylon distress call had changed the course of the war. "Hard to believe it's been only 6 months since the Dauntless made first contact," Jun said, looking out the viewports at the assembled fleet, vessels of all shapes and designs now bearing the same insignia of the new alliance. "Harder to believe. It all started because our nervous systems evolved differently," Day replied with a small smile. "Our immunity to their weapons gave us the chance to fight back, but it was our humanity that won the peace." "What happens now?" Jun asked. "Now comes the hard part," Day said, "building something that lasts. The Araxians ruled through fear for 3,000 years. We need to create something better, a community of worlds where every species can contribute their unique strengths." Across the room, Dr. Jin, who had first discovered why humans were resistant to Araxian weapons, was deep in conversation with a Talon scientist and former high engineer Mox. They were discussing ways to adapt medical technology for different physiologies, their earlier enmity replaced by professional curiosity. Admiral Song approached Day, her weathered face showing signs of fatigue but also satisfaction. The new fleet deployment patterns are set. We'll have joint patrols with the Vectal and Nor forces along the former border regions. Any reports of resistance? Day asked. Some isolated Araxian commanders refusing to acknowledge the peace, Song admitted. But most are standing down. When confronted by the joint fleet, they know the old empire is finished. Later that evening, as the delegates departed for their respective ships, Elder Fen lingered behind with Captain Day. There is still much to be done, she observed, her melodic voice thoughtful. Many wounds to heal, many bridges to build. We've made a good start, Day replied. Better than I hoped for when the Araxians first fired on us. You humans are remarkable, Fen said. Not because your bodies resisted their weapons, but because your spirits resisted the temptation of vengeance. Many species would have used this victory to become the new oppressors. Day shook his head. We've spent too much of our history fighting each other to romanticize war. When we looked at the stars, we hoped to find friends, not subjects. Fen's large eyes studied him carefully. And that is why you succeeded where the Araxians failed. Their weapons could control bodies, but your ideas have changed minds. Which, Captain, is the stronger force? As the UES Harmony prepared for its first official voyage as the flagship of the new alliance, its mixed crew of humans and former subject species moved with growing confidence. On the bridge, Captain Day settled into the command chair, looking at the view screen where dozens of worlds now waited to be explored, not as conquests but as partners. Course laid in, Captain, reported the navigation officer, a young human named Jin Wu. Take us out, Lieutenant, Day ordered. We have a galaxy waiting to meet us. As the Harmony moved gracefully away from Earth, its engines humming with power. Born from the combined knowledge of multiple civilizations, Captain Day couldn't help but reflect on how differently things might have turned out. If humans hadn't evolved their unique neural resistance, they might have been just another conquered species. Instead, they had become the catalyst for a new galactic order, not because they were immune to weapons, but because they understood that true strength came from cooperation rather than domination. The stars beckoned, no longer threatening, but full of possibility.